The billionaire widower's triplets hadn't slept well since birth, until the cook. Nathan Miller was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. It had been 3 months since the triplets were born, and since then, neither he nor the children had known a peaceful night. The babies cried incessantly, taking turns in a chorus of despair that echoed through the halls of the Beverly Hills mansion in Los Angeles. It was during a particularly difficult early morning that Emily Parker, the new cook hired just 2 weeks prior, heard the screams coming from the upper floor. She had been brought in to replace the previous employee who quit because she couldn't stand the tense atmosphere in the house. Emily climbed the marble stairs and found Nathan pacing back and forth in the nursery, his hair disheveled and dark circles under his eyes. "Mr. Nathan, you need to rest," Emily said softly as she approached. "How can I rest, Emily?" he replied hoarsely. "It's been 3 months like this. The doctors say there's nothing wrong with them, but—" Emily looked at the 3 cribs side by side. Ethan, Olivia, and Noah squirmed restlessly, their little faces red from crying. Without asking permission, she walked over to Ethan's crib, the most agitated, and began singing a lullaby her grandmother had taught her back in Louisiana. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Daddy's gone hunting, Mommy's at work." Emily's gentle voice filled the room, and something extraordinary happened. Ethan's cries gradually faded, his eyelids growing heavy. Olivia and Noah also began to calm, as if they recognized the ancient melody. Nathan stopped pacing, watching in disbelief as all 3 babies finally relaxed. Within 15 minutes, something that hadn't happened in months became reality. The triplets were fast asleep. "How did you do that?" Nathan whispered, afraid to break the spell. Emily smiled shyly, adjusting the white cap she always wore. "My grandmother used to say this song had special powers. She took care of many children back home." That night, for the first time in 3 months, Nathan managed to sleep 4 hours straight. When he woke, he found Emily still in the nursery, sitting in an armchair beside the cribs, keeping watch over the little ones. From that day on, Nathan established a new routine. Emily would sleep in the room next to the nursery, ready to soothe the babies whenever needed. The young redhead with green eyes accepted the responsibility without hesitation, but soon she discovered something peculiar. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The triplets only fully calmed down when Emily was barefoot. She noticed this on the second night when she stepped onto the cold marble floor and felt the babies relax even deeper. It was as if they could sense her presence through the vibrations in the floor. Mrs. Henderson, the housekeeper who had cared for the babies since birth, watched everything with growing unease. A 62-year-old woman who had worked for the family for over a decade, she felt threatened by Emily's arrival. "I don't think this is normal," Mrs. Henderson muttered to Walter, the butler. "A simple cook achieving what pediatricians and specialists couldn't? There's something strange about it." Walter, a discreet man who knew the family's struggles well, simply shook his head. "Mrs. Henderson, sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. The girl has a gift." But Mrs. Henderson wasn't convinced. She began spreading rumors among the other staff, insinuating that Emily used suspicious tricks to calm the children. She sighed loudly every time she saw Nathan praising the young cook's work. A week later, during a typical Los Angeles summer storm, the power in the mansion went out completely. The triplets, frightened by the thunder, began crying desperately in the dark. Nathan rushed to the room, followed by Margaret, but neither could calm the babies. Emily appeared in the doorway with a candle in hand, her red hair glowing in the dim light. "Let me try," she said softly. In the near-total darkness, Emily approached the cribs and did something that surprised everyone. She held all 3 babies together, cradling them against her chest, and began humming quietly. The effect was even more striking than before. The triplets not only stopped crying, but seemed to nestle into each other, creating a cocoon of peace in the young woman's arms. Nathan, who watched everything through the battery-powered security cameras on his phone, noticed something that deeply intrigued him. The babies seemed to synchronize their movements with Emily's heartbeat, as if they recognized that rhythm from somewhere. The next morning, when the power was restored, Nathan confronted Emily in the kitchen. "Emily, I need to ask you something. Have you worked with babies before?" The young woman hesitated, nervously fidgeting with her apron. "Mr. Nathan, I have, but not as a nanny." "Then how?" Emily took a deep breath, knowing she could no longer hide the truth. "I was a nurse at Mercy Medical Center's maternity ward here in Los Angeles. I worked there for 5 years before coming here." A chill ran down Nathan's spine. "Mercy Medical? But that's where the triplets were born." "I know." Emily lowered her eyes. "I cared for them in the NICU during the 2 months they were hospitalized." The silence that followed was heavy. Nathan remembered those terrible days when Victoria, his wife, had given birth prematurely due to pregnancy complications. The babies were born at 7 months, and he spent those days rushing between her room and the NICU. "You were there during everything?" "During the worst nights, yes," Emily confirmed, tears in her eyes. "When they struggled to breathe, when Ethan had that infection, when Olivia needed a transfusion, I was always on the night shift." Nathan sank heavily into a kitchen chair, trying to process the revelation. "Why didn't you ever tell me before?" "Because you were suffering too much. When your wife—" Emily paused, choosing her words carefully. "When she passed, you were so shaken I thought it best not to stir up painful memories." Just then, Margaret walked into the kitchen and caught the end of the conversation. Her eyes narrowed, suspicion crossing her face. "How convenient," she muttered. "Just the nurse who cared for the babies shows up here as a cook." Nathan glared at the housekeeper. "Margaret, Emily has been helping our family in ways no one else could." "Has she?" Margaret crossed her arms. "And why would a trained nurse be working as a cook? What happened to your career?" Emily paled, but before she could answer, the triplets' cries echoed from upstairs. She rushed out, leaving Margaret's question unanswered. That afternoon, Nathan decided to investigate. He called some contacts at the hospital and learned Emily had resigned 6 months earlier, right after an incident no one wanted to detail over the phone. When he questioned her directly, she finally revealed the truth. "I lost a patient," she said, her voice breaking. "A 2-month-old baby girl. I'd been caring for her for weeks, and one night she just stopped breathing. It wasn't medical error, it was respiratory distress syndrome. But still, I couldn't work there anymore." Nathan felt a tightness in his chest. He knew that feeling of helplessness all too well. "And why did you choose to work here?" "Because I saw the ad in the paper and recognized the address. When I found out it was you, that it was the triplets I helped care for, I felt it was my destiny to be here." The weeks that followed brought surprising changes. The triplets, who had once seemed perpetually restless, began showing signs of accelerated development when they were with Emily. They learned to smile weeks earlier than expected and started interacting with each other in ways that even impressed Nathan. Dr. William Thompson, the family pediatrician, was intrigued by the changes. "Nathan, there's something different about the children. They're more responsive, calmer. What changed?" "Our cook has a special way with them," Nathan explained without going into detail. "I'd like to meet her, and I suggest some neurological tests for the babies. I want to understand this behavior better." The tests revealed something astonishing. The triplets had a rare condition called sensory hypersensitivity. They were extremely sensitive to sounds, touch, and even changes in atmospheric pressure. Most people who tried to soothe them unconsciously created more stimuli that upset them. Emily, without realizing it, had the perfect combination of a soft voice, gentle touch, and calm presence that neutralized this hypersensitivity. "That's why they calm down when you're barefoot," Dr. William explained. "They feel the vibrations in the floor, and your physical presence reassures them. But the peace of the household would soon be disrupted again." Rebecca Miller, Nathan's younger sister, showed up unexpectedly on a Thursday afternoon. A successful lawyer and a confirmed bachelor, she had lived in Europe for the past 2 years and had no idea of the struggles her brother had faced. "Nathan, what's this about a cook taking care of my nephews?" she asked bluntly. "Rebecca, you don't understand. Emily saved my sanity and the children's." Some stranger shouldn't have so much access to the Miller heirs, Rebecca shot back, watching Emily walk down the hallway with a tray. Rebecca began investigating on her own. She found out where Emily lived, a small apartment in Koreatown, and was horrified by the simplicity of the place. Nathan, this woman lives in a studio apartment. How can we trust our babies to someone who can barely take care of herself? Rebecca, financial status doesn't determine character, Nathan argued. Doesn't it? Then why is a trained nurse working as a maid? What kind of problems did she have in the past? Rebecca's pressure began to wear on Nathan. During a particularly heated argument in the library, Emily appeared at the door with coffee. Rebecca couldn't hold back. Since you're here, Miss Emily, maybe you can explain why you gave up nursing to become a simple cook. Emily set the tray down on the table with trembling hands. Mrs. Rebecca, I've already explained to your brother. Oh yes, the story about the child who died. Very convenient. What other truths are you hiding? It was then that Emily made a decision that would change everything. You want the whole truth? She took a deep breath. I knew your sister-in-law, Victoria. The silence in the library was deafening. Nathan turned pale. What do you mean you knew her? I was the nurse on night duty when she was admitted. I cared for her during the 2 weeks leading up to the triplets' birth. Rebecca crossed her arms, skeptical. And why didn't you mention this before? Because she made me promise something before she passed. Nathan stood from his chair, his heart racing. What promise? Emily looked him straight in the eye. She said that if anything happened to her, she wanted someone to care for the babies with a mother's love. She said she felt they would be special, but also fragile. She asked me to always watch over them. This is ridiculous, Rebecca exploded. A terminal patient making promises to a nurse? Your sister-in-law wasn't terminal when we spoke, Emily replied calmly. She was lucid and worried. She said she felt something could go wrong, that she had nightmares about the babies crying non-stop. Nathan remembered his last conversations with Victoria. She had indeed shown an inexplicable concern for the children's future, as if she sensed something. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. Emily's words echoed in his mind, mixed with memories of Victoria and her strange worry in her final days. Meanwhile, Margaret was scheming behind the scenes. Bothered by the growing closeness between Nathan and Emily, she decided to act. Using her old contacts, she got information about Emily's financial situation and discovered the young woman had significant medical debts from her elderly mother's treatment. Margaret forged some documents, exaggerating the debt and creating the impression that Emily was desperate for money. She presented it all to Nathan one Friday morning. Mr. Nathan, I think you should see this, she said, handing him a folder. I found out some things about our cook. The documents showed debts totaling nearly $50,000, a considerable amount for someone earning minimum wage. See, Margaret insisted, someone this deep in debt could do anything for money. Who's to say she doesn't have ulterior motives with the children? Nathan studied the papers, confused. Why had Emily never mentioned financial struggles? Was Rebecca right to be suspicious? He decided to confront Emily that same afternoon. He found her in the backyard garden, where she usually took the triplets for morning sun. Emily, we need to talk about your debts. She looked up, surprised. My debts, sir? Don't pretend you don't know. $50,000 is a lot of money. Emily flushed, not with shame, with indignation. Who told you that? And how did someone get access to my personal information? That doesn't matter now. What matters is you hid your financial situation when you came to work here. I never hid anything. Emily stood up, still holding Olivia in her arms. Yes, I have debts from my mother's treatment, but I never lied about it. $50,000, Emily. That's almost 2 years of your salary here. 50,000, she repeated, disbelieving. Mr. Nathan, my debts aren't even close to that. Someone's lying to you. Just then the triplets grew restless, as if sensing the tension in the air. Ethan started crying, followed by Noah. Emily automatically began singing softly, and Nathan watched as the babies instantly calmed in her arms. That kind of connection couldn't be faked. Nathan realized someone was manipulating the situation, but who? The following week, the triplets fell ill with a viral fever. Dr. William explained it was common but required extra care. For 3 days and nights, only Emily's presence could soothe the babies during the hardest moments of treatment. Nathan found himself watching Emily differently. Her dedication, the way she cared for the children as if they were her own, her endless patience even when exhausted, something in his heart was changing. During a particularly difficult early morning, when Olivia had a high fever and wouldn't stop crying, Emily picked her up and began walking around the room, humming softly. Nathan was sitting in a nearby armchair watching. "You're going to be a wonderful mother someday," he said without thinking. Emily stopped walking and looked at him, surprised. "Mr. Nathan, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that." He stood up, embarrassed. "I'll let you take care of her in peace." But Emily grabbed his arm as he passed by. "You don't need to apologize. It's one of the nicest compliments I've ever received." They stared at each other for a moment, with Olivia finally asleep between them. Nathan felt a wave of guilt wash over him. How could he be developing feelings for another woman so soon after losing Victoria? Emily sensed his inner conflict and gently stepped back. "I'll put Olivia in her crib. You should rest." From that moment on, Nathan began to fight his own feelings. He loved Victoria and always would, but Emily had brought life back into his home, warmth to his children, and, whether he admitted it or not, peace to his heart. Rebecca noticed the change in her brother's behavior and intensified her campaign against Emily. "Nathan, you're falling for a maid," she said during a visit. "What would Victoria think of that?" "Rebecca, don't bring Victoria into this." "But that's exactly what I'm doing. This woman is taking advantage of your vulnerability, your grief." "Emily isn't taking advantage of anything. She takes care of my children better than any professional nanny." "Because she wants something in return. Open your eyes, Nathan." The pressure was becoming unbearable. Nathan felt torn between his family, his feelings, and his children's well-being. Emily sensed the growing tension and made a decision that would break her heart. One Thursday morning, she went to Nathan's office. "Mr. Nathan, I need to talk to you." "Of course, Emily, have a seat." "Actually, I'd rather stand. It's about my job here." Nathan felt a tightness in his chest. "Your work has been excellent, Emily. The boys—" "I'm leaving," she interrupted. "I think it's best for everyone." "Best for everyone? The triplets need you. They'll adjust, and you'll find someone more suitable to care for them." "Suitable? Emily, what are you talking about?" She took a deep breath, struggling to keep her composure. "Your sister is right. I'm not fit for this position. I'm just a cook with financial troubles and a complicated past. I don't care about that. But you should. The boys are heirs to an empire, Mr. Nathan. They deserve care from someone with better qualifications, a better social standing." "Stop it!" Nathan stood up, agitated. "Emily, you're talking nonsense." "No, I'm not, and that's why I'm leaving tomorrow morning." Emily walked out of the office, leaving Nathan stunned. He couldn't let her go, but he didn't know how to stop her. That night, the triplets felt Emily's emotional absence. Even though she was physically there, they sensed her sadness and grew restless. They cried more than they had in weeks, and not even Emily's lullaby could fully calm them. Nathan stayed awake all night, listening to his children's cries and knowing Emily was suffering in the next room. In the morning, he found her in the kitchen preparing the last bottles. "Emily, you can't leave." "I've made my decision, Mr. Nathan, and I've made mine. You're not going anywhere." Emily stopped stirring the bottle and stared at him. "You can't force me to stay." "No, but I can tell you the truth." Nathan stepped closer to her. "I don't want you to leave because I've fallen in love with you." The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Emily dropped the spoon in the sink. "Mr. Nathan, I know it's complicated. I know I still love my wife and always will, but you've brought something new into my life. You've brought hope." "You're confusing gratitude with love," Emily whispered. "I'm not. I know the difference." Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Even if it were true, it could never work. We're from different worlds." "Different worlds that complete each other," Nathan said, taking her hands. "Emily, Stay, please." Before she could answer, they heard a commotion from upstairs. The triplets were crying desperately, and Margaret was shouting for help. They rushed to the bedroom and found chaos. Ethan had thrown up, Olivia had a high fever again, and Noah wouldn't stop crying. Margaret was panicking, trying to care for all three at once. Emily didn't hesitate. She picked up Ethan, told Nathan to hold Olivia, and directed Margaret to tend to Noah. Within minutes, using her experience as a nurse, she assessed the situation and gave clear instructions. Ethan just ate something that didn't agree with him, but Olivia needs to go to the hospital. Her fever is too high. At the hospital, while waiting for Olivia's test results, Nathan watched Emily interact with the nurses. It was obvious she was respected and well known there. Several people stopped to greet her and ask when she'd return to work. "Emily is one of the best nurses we've ever had," Dr. William Thompson remarked when he arrived to examine Olivia. "When I heard she was working at your house, I was intrigued. Why? She could get a job at any private hospital in Los Angeles, leaving nursing to be a cook. There must be a very special reason." Nathan looked at Emily, who was cradling Olivia while they waited. In that moment, he understood completely. She wasn't there for money or convenience. She was there out of love. Love for the babies she'd helped save, love for the promise she'd made to Victoria, and perhaps love for him. Olivia recovered quickly with proper treatment, and they returned home by evening. Rebecca was waiting in the living room with a serious expression. "Nathan, I've found out something important about our dear Emily." "Rebecca, I don't have the patience for another one of your theories." "It's not a theory, it's fact. I found out who falsified the documents about her debts." Nathan raised his eyebrows. "What do you mean, falsified?" "Those papers Margaret showed you were fake. Emily's real debts don't exceed $5,000, all related to her mother's medical treatment. Margaret lied. Not only lied, she has a history of manipulating wealthy families. I found out she was fired from 2 previous jobs for inappropriate behavior. She always tried to stir conflict between employers and other staff." Nathan felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger at being manipulated, relief knowing Emily was exactly who she seemed to be. "There's more," Rebecca continued. "I discovered Emily really did speak to Victoria at the hospital, and our sister-in-law even offered her a considerable sum to care for the babies in the future." "How did you find this out?" "I spoke to other nurses who were there. Victoria was deeply worried about the babies. She had constant nightmares about them crying. Emily was the only one who could calm her during those episodes." Nathan sank heavily onto the couch, processing everything. "And Emily refused the money?" "Completely. She said it wasn't about money, but about care. That if the babies ever needed her, she'd be there out of love, not payment." In that moment, Nathan knew exactly what he had to do. He went looking for Margaret and fired her on the spot without explanation. Then he sought out Emily. He found her in the triplets' room, meticulously organizing the babies' things. She had gone back to wearing her full maid uniform, as if to reinforce the social distance between them. "Emily, we need to talk." "If it's about firing me, Mr. Nathan, I understand. After what happened today, you're not fired. In fact, I have a proposal for you." Emily stopped folding the tiny clothes and looked at him confused. "What kind of proposal?" "I want you to marry me." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Emily let the little outfit slip from her hands. "Mr. Nathan, are you serious?" "I've never been more serious in my life. But we barely know each other. I'm your employee, you're my boss. You cared for my children in the NICU when I didn't even know they existed. You made a promise to my dying wife. You brought peace to my home when I was desperate. You loved my children as if they were your own." Nathan stepped closer to her. "If that's not knowing someone, then I don't know what is." Emily shook her head, still in shock. "People will say I'm a gold digger, that I took advantage of the situation. People always talk. But I know who you are, Emily. I know your character, your kindness, your love for my children, and your family. Rebecca would never accept it. Rebecca already has. She was the one who told me the truth about you." Emily sat in the rocking chair, trying to process everything. "Mr. Nathan, I don't know what to say." "Say yes." He knelt before her. "Marry me, Emily. Be my wife. Be their mother officially. What if it doesn't work? What if you regret it? I won't regret it. You're already part of this family, Emily. The triplets are proof of that. As if understanding the conversation, Ethan babbled something from the crib, followed by Olivia and Noah. For the first time since they were born, all three seemed to be trying to communicate at once. Emily looked at the babies, then at Nathan. "They're my life," she whispered. "And you're ours." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Emily took a few days to give her answer. During that time, Nathan respected her space, but made it clear his offer still stood. The triplets, as if sensing the tension, became even more affectionate with her, always reaching out their little arms when she approached. It was during a conversation with her own mother, Mrs. Wilson, that Emily finally found clarity. "My dear," said the 70-year-old woman, who was in the hospital for routine tests, "when your father died, I thought I could never love again." "And did you?" "No, because I never tried." Mrs. Wilson held her daughter's hand. "But regret is worse than fear, Emily. If this man and these children make you happy, why refuse?" "Because I'm afraid I won't be enough, Mum." "Sweetheart, you've spent 5 years of your life caring for other people's babies. Now you have the chance to have your own, even if they didn't come from your womb." "Do you think Victoria would approve?" Mrs. Wilson smiled wisely. "A mother who cares so much about her children's future that she makes promises on her deathbed only wants one thing: for them to be loved. And you love these children, don't you? More than anything in the world." Then she would approve. That night, Emily returned to the mansion with her decision made. She found Nathan in the office, working late as usual. "Can I come in?" "Of course, Emily. Always." She took a deep breath, nervous. "About your proposal." Nathan stopped typing and turned to her, hope in his eyes. "I accept," she said simply. "I'll marry you, Nathan." The smile that spread across his face was the most beautiful Emily had ever seen. Nathan stood up and wrapped her in a tender embrace. "Are you sure?" "I am. But we have to do this the right way." "What do you mean?" "I want a real engagement, not a marriage of convenience. I want us to get to know each other as a man and woman, not as boss and employee." "Deal. How long do you want the engagement to be?" 6 months. Enough time to be sure, and for me to get used to the idea of being a billionaire's wife." Nathan laughed, a sound that hadn't echoed through that house in a long time. "And enough time to find a new cook because you're quitting this job." "Oh no," Emily protested. "I'll keep cooking. It's what I do best besides taking care of babies." "Emily, you'll be my wife. And a wife who cooks for her husband and children. I won't turn into some useless socialite, Nathan Miller." During those 6 months of engagement, life in the mansion changed completely. Nathan hired a professional nanny to help with the triplets during the day, allowing Emily to focus more on wedding preparations and her new roles. Rebecca, surprisingly, became a great ally. She helped Emily pick out dresses, understand high society protocols in Los Angeles, and even prepare a trousseau worthy of a Miller wife. "You know, Emily," Rebecca said during a shopping trip, "at first I really doubted you." "I know, and I don't blame you. But watching you with the kids, seeing how Nathan has changed since you arrived, I realized Victoria chose the right person to care for her family." "Do you really think she chose me?" "I'm sure of it. My sister-in-law was always very intuitive. If she made a point of talking to you at the hospital, it's because she knew you'd meet again." The triplets grew quickly, and their bond with Emily deepened every day. By 8 months, they were crawling and seemed to have developed their own way of communicating, always babbling together as if having a conversation. Dr. William monitored their progress closely and was impressed. "Nathan, I've never seen triplets so synchronized and yet so advanced. The emotional stability Emily has given them is reflected in every aspect of their growth. And the sensory hypersensitivity? Practically gone. They've learned to handle stimuli because they had a secure foundation early on." The wedding was set for a spring Saturday morning. an intimate ceremony in the chapel at the Miller family estate in upstate California. Emily insisted on something simple, with only close family and a few friends. The night before the wedding, as Emily finished last-minute preparations, she received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Johnson, the former cleaning lady from the hospital where she'd worked, appeared at the mansion's door. "Mrs. Emily, I heard about your wedding and came to bring you something." She handed over a yellowed envelope. "What is this, Mrs. Johnson?" "A letter your fiancé's wife left for you. She asked me to give it to you if you ever met again." With trembling hands, Emily opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in Victoria's delicate handwriting. "Dear Emily, if you're reading this, it means my intuition was right, and you found my husband and children again. I want you to know there's nothing wrong with loving a family you weren't born into. On the contrary, it's everything right. I watched you caring for other children at the hospital. I saw your dedication, your tenderness, your genuine love. When I knew I likely wouldn't survive childbirth, my only worry was my babies. But after meeting you, I found peace. I know Nathan will resist at first. He loved me deeply, and that's good. It means he can love deeply again. Help him understand that the heart has infinite space for love, and that loving again doesn't diminish what we feel for those who have passed. Take care of my children as I know you can. Love my husband the way he deserves to be loved. And be happy, because your happiness will be mine too. With all my affection and gratitude, Victoria." Emily finished reading the letter with tears streaming down her face. She felt as if Victoria were there, blessing her union with Nathan and her motherhood of the triplets. On the wedding day, Emily wore a simple white lace dress, her red hair tied in a low bun with a few loose strands framing her face. She carried a bouquet of daisies, Victoria's favorite flower, according to Nathan. When it was her turn to walk down the aisle, Emily saw Nathan waiting for her with the 3 babies in his arms. Ethan, Olivia, and Noah wore matching white outfits and seemed to understand the solemnity of the moment. "Dear guests," said the priest, "we are here not only to celebrate the union of Nathan and Emily, but also the formation of a family that destiny helped build." During the ceremony, when it came time for the vows, Nathan surprised everyone. "Emily, you came into my life when I needed it most, but not just to save me. You came to save my children too. I promise to love and respect you, to be the father our children deserve, and to honor Victoria's memory by being the best husband I can be for you." Emily, moved, replied, "Nathan, I accept not only being your wife, but also being the mother of Ethan, Olivia, and Noah. I promise to care for them as Victoria would have, to love them as if they were my own flesh and blood, and to help you keep her memory alive in our hearts." When the priest declared them husband and wife, the triplets babbled together, as if applauding. The small congregation laughed through their tears. After the ceremony, during lunch on the farmhouse porch, Nathan pulled Emily aside for a private moment. "I have a surprise for you." "Another surprise? The wedding was surprise enough." Nathan smiled and handed her an envelope. "Open it." Inside were official adoption papers for the triplets. "Nathan, what is this?" "I want you to be their mother officially, not just in your heart, but on paper too." "But what if one day we have problems? What if we separate?" "Then they'll still be your children no matter what. Emily, you saved these kids. It's only fair they're officially yours." Emily hugged her husband, feeling complete for the first time in her life. The months that followed brought a happiness neither of them had imagined possible. Emily adjusted well to life as a businessman's wife, but kept her simple, down-to-earth personality. She turned the mansion into a true family home. Where there had once been cold, formal spaces, there were now toys scattered, children's laughter, and the constant aroma of home-cooked meals. Mrs. Wilson, Emily's mother, moved into a guest house on the property, where she could be close to her daughter while maintaining her independence. She became the grandmother the triplets never had, telling stories of Louisiana and teaching them old lullabies. "You know, Nathan," Emily said one evening as they watched the triplets playing on the living room rug, "sometimes I think about how everything fell perfectly into place." "How so?" "I lost my little patient at the hospital and thought I'd never be able to care for children again. You lost Victoria and thought you'd never find love again. The boys were born with a condition that caused them so much pain, and it all worked out when we found each other. Exactly. It's as if every hardship we faced was preparing us for this moment. Nathan pulled his wife closer on the couch. Victoria was right. The heart has infinite space for love. Just then, Olivia crawled over to them and lifted her little arms, asking to be held. Ethan and Noah followed her, and soon the whole family was piled onto the couch in a delightful mess of laughter and affection. "Mommy," Olivia babbled, clearly addressing Emily. It was the first recognizable word any of the triplets had spoken, and she had chosen to call Emily Mommy. "Mommy," Ethan and Noah repeated, as always doing everything together. Emily felt tears of joy stream down her face. All the pain, all the losses, all the fears had been worth it to reach this moment. "Daddy," said Ethan, looking at Nathan. "Daddy," his sisters echoed. Nathan hugged his family, feeling immense gratitude for the winding path that had led them here. 2 years later, Emily and Nathan had a biological daughter, Charlotte. But to many people's surprise, it didn't change the family dynamic at all. The triplets welcomed their little sister with so much love that it seemed they were certain she had always been part of the family. "How do you explain this?" Rebecca asked, watching Ethan help Emily change Charlotte's diaper. "They've learned that family isn't about blood," Emily replied. "It's about love." Charlotte grew up listening to the same lullabies that had soothed her older siblings, and when she turned 6 months old, Emily discovered something wonderful. Charlotte also had the gift of calming the triplets when they got restless. "It's incredible," Dr. William remarked during a checkup. "It's as if she's inherited your special ability, Emily." "Or maybe she's just learned that love is the best medicine," Emily replied, watching Charlotte babble to her brothers. On the triplets' 5th birthday, Nathan threw a party at the ranch. The entire extended family was there along with friends, former co-workers from the hospital where Emily had worked, and even Mrs. Johnson, who had become a sort of adoptive grandmother to the children. During the party, Nathan asked for everyone's attention for a special toast. "I want to thank a very special person," he said, raising his glass. "Emily turned our house into a home, our despair into joy, our pain into love. But more than that, she taught our children that family is something we build with our hearts. Mommy sang to us when we were babies," Olivia said, now speaking clearly. "And she never stopped singing," Ethan added. "Now she sings to Charlotte too," Noah finished. Emily held her 3 oldest children while Nathan carried Charlotte. "The Miller-Parker family," Rebecca teased. "Who would have thought a humble cook could turn a workaholic billionaire into a devoted family man? And who would have guessed 3 babies who couldn't sleep would become the calmest children in Los Angeles?" Dr. William added. That night, after everyone had left and the children were asleep, Emily and Nathan sat in the garden where it had all begun years before. "Do you regret anything?" Nathan asked. "The argument with Margaret, maybe. I could have uncovered her lies sooner." "No, Emily. If things had happened differently, we might not have gotten here." "You're right. What about you? Do you regret anything?" Nathan thought for a moment. "Not realizing sooner that I was in love with you. I wasted time fighting a feeling that only did me good." "The time was necessary, love. For you to accept that you deserved happiness again, for me to understand I deserved a family, for the boys to heal. Would Victoria be happy?" Nathan asked, as he still sometimes did. "I'm sure she would." Emily showed him the ring she wore on her right hand. "Do you recognize this?" Nathan looked closer and was surprised. It was a simple gold band he didn't recognize. "Where did it come from?" "It was among Victoria's personal belongings at the hospital. The head nurse gave it to me with the letter. She said Victoria wanted me to have it." "But why?" "Read what's engraved inside." Nathan held the ring up to the balcony light. In tiny letters it read, "To the mother of my children, Emily." She knew Nathan. Since the hospital, she knew I would be the mother of her children. That's why she made me that promise, why she left the ring. Nathan hugged his wife, overcome with emotion. After all these years, Victoria still found ways to show she approved of the family they had built. "You know what amazes me the most," Emily said, nestling into her husband's arms. "What?" "The boys never asked about their birth mother. It's like, to them, I've always been their mom." "Because you always have been, Emily. Since the NICU, since those first nights you sang to them, you were already their mother." Just then, they heard a soft noise from the children's room. Charlotte was whimpering. "I'll go," Emily said, standing up. "I'll come with you." But when they reached the room, they found a scene that melted their hearts. Ethan, Olivia, and Noah had climbed out of their beds and were gathered around Charlotte's crib. Ethan was humming the same lullaby Emily always sang, while Olivia gently stroked her sister's head and Noah held her tiny hand. Charlotte had stopped crying and was watching her siblings with curious eyes. "They're taking care of her just like you took care of them," Nathan whispered. "Love multiplies," Emily replied. "That's what Victoria meant in the letter. The love we gave them, they're now giving to Charlotte." Nathan and Emily stood in the doorway, watching for a few more minutes as love flowed between their children. It was living proof that they hadn't just built a family, they'd created a legacy of warmth. 10 years had passed since that first night when Emily soothed the triplets. The mansion in Beverly Hills had transformed completely. Where there was once silence and sadness, laughter, conversation, music, and life now filled the air. Ethan had grown into a curious boy, passionate about books and science. Olivia had a natural talent for music, playing the piano with the same grace Emily sang with. Noah was a born artist, always drawing and creating. Charlotte, now 5, was the perfect blend of all her siblings. Curious like Ethan, musical like Olivia, creative like Noah, and as loving as her mother. "Mom," Olivia said one Sunday afternoon as the family gathered in the living room, "tell us again how you met us." It was a regular ritual. The children loved hearing the story of how their family came to be. "Well," Emily began, settling Charlotte on her lap while the triplets gathered around, "you were very special babies who couldn't sleep." "Because we were too sensitive," Noah chimed in. "That's right, and I was a nurse who took care of you in the hospital." "And you sang to us," Ethan said. "And you'd calm down," Olivia continued. "And then Mommy came to work at our house," Charlotte recited, already knowing the story by heart. "And Daddy fell in love with Mommy," the triplets finished in unison. "And now we're a complete family," Nathan added, joining them. "Forever?" Charlotte asked, as she always did. "Forever," they all replied together. That night, after the children were asleep, Nathan found Emily in the old triplets' room, now their family library. "What are you thinking about?" "How funny life is," she answered, running her fingers over the spine of a children's songbook. "In this room I was just a cook trying to soothe 3 restless babies. And now? Now I'm the mother of 4 wonderful children and the wife of the most amazing man in the world." "Emily Miller Parker," Nathan said her full name. "You saved more than 3 babies that night. You saved an entire family." "No, my love. We saved each other." Nathan kissed her softly, still feeling the same emotion as their first kiss. "Do you know my favorite part of this whole story?" "What?" "That we're still writing it, every day, with every laugh from the kids, with every new discovery they make, with every family moment. We're creating new pages." Emily smiled, gazing out the window at the garden where the children had played earlier. "And what do you think the next chapter will be?" "I don't know." Nathan wrapped his arms around her from behind. "But I know it'll be written with lots of love." Just then they heard bare footsteps in the hallway. Charlotte appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed bear. "Mommy, can you sing for me?" "Of course, sweetheart. What song do you want?" "The Brothers' Song." Charlotte always called it that, the lullaby Emily sang to the triplets. The 3 of them walked to Charlotte's room, where Emily tucked her in and began singing the same song that had changed their lives years ago. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." Nathan watched his wife sing to their daughter, remembering that first night when Emily had appeared like an angel in the triplets' room. Who could have guessed a simple lullaby would be the start of such a beautiful love story? Once Charlotte was asleep, they checked the other rooms. Ethan was reading under the covers with a flashlight, Olivia had fallen asleep hugging her toy piano, and Noah had crayons scattered across his bed, evidence of one last drawing before bedtime. "Our children," Emily whispered, adjusting each of their blankets. "Our miracles," Nathan corrected. In bed, before falling asleep, Emily did something that had become a habit. She silently thanked Victoria for trusting her with those precious babies. "Thank you for letting me be their mother," she murmured. "I promise I'll always love them the way you would have." Nathan, who knew this ritual of hers, kissed her forehead. "She knows, love. I'm sure she does." And so ends our story. A family born from pain, grown in love, and strengthened by unity. Emily Parker, the humble cook who became Emily Miller Parker, mother of 4 and devoted wife. Nathan Miller, the widowed billionaire who learned the heart has infinite room for love. And 4 children who grew up knowing family is something built with tenderness, dedication, and lots of music. The triplets, who hadn't slept well since birth, found in Emily's voice not just the rest they needed, but the love of a mother destiny brought to them. And Emily, who thought she'd lost her calling to care, discovered that sometimes we lose one thing to find something even better. In their Beverly Hills mansion, lullabies still echo every night. Not to soothe restless babies anymore, but to cradle the happy dreams of a family that proved true love knows no bounds of social class, origin, or circumstance. And if you pass by on a Sunday afternoon, you might still hear laughter in the garden, music from the living room piano, and Emily singing in the kitchen as she prepares lunch for her family. Because some things never change: a mother's love, a father's devotion, and the music that binds hearts together. The end. Now, dear listener, tell us, what did you think of Emily and Nathan's story? Do you believe destiny brought these people together? Share your honest thoughts in the comments. Did Emily make the right choice accepting the marriage? We'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.